Hello, survivors. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the story. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel. We appreciate it, and thank you in advance. Please leave the name of the city you're listening from in the comments section below. It helps us see our reach in the community. Let's start the story. I still remember the morning everything changed. A crisp day in October. Just another Tuesday at Oakland Zoo, or so I thought. My name's Elijah Monroe, head keeper of the big cat exhibits. 12 years working with animals teaches you to notice patterns, to sense when something isn't right. That morning, every animal in the zoo was telling me something was terribly wrong. It started with Raja, our male Bengal tiger. Usually stoic and calm during morning feeds, he was pacing obsessively, muscles tense under his orange and black coat. His pupils were dilated despite the bright morning sun, and he refused his breakfast, 20 pounds of fresh meat left untouched. In 15 years, I'd never seen him refuse a meal. "What's got you so worked up, big guy?" I asked, checking his enclosure for anything unusual. Nothing seemed out of place, but his behavior was unmistakable. Pure anxiety. The radio at my hip crackled. "Elijah, you reading me?" It was Mira from the primate department, her voice tight with concern. "Go ahead," I responded, eyes still on Raja. "Something's wrong with the chimps. They've been screaming since dawn. Diego won't stop throwing himself against the viewing glass. We've never seen him this agitated." I felt a knot forming in my stomach. One animal acting strange could be explained away. Illness, a change in routine. But multiple species simultaneously? That was a pattern. "The big cats are the same," I replied. "Raja's pacing like he's possessed, something spooking them." As if to confirm my observation, a chorus of howls erupted from the wolf habitat across the path. Not their usual communicative howls. These were alarm calls, high-pitched and frantic. I made my way toward the administration building, my pace quickening as I passed each exhibit. The flamingos were clustered tightly in their pond, the elephants were trumpeting anxiously, and even the typically lethargic sloths were moving with unusual haste. It was as if every animal in the zoo had simultaneously received the same alarming message. Director Harlow was already in the conference room with several department heads, her face illuminated by a laptop screen displaying a news broadcast. The volume was low, but I caught phrases like unexplained violent behavior and possible viral outbreak. "Ah, Elijah," she looked up, lines of worry etched across her forehead. "How are the cats?" "Agitated, like they know something we don't." I gestured to the screen. "What's happening?" "Reports of violent incidents across the Bay Area," she said, turning up the volume slightly. "Started last night in San Francisco. People attacking each other seemingly unprovoked. Hospitals are overwhelmed." A helicopter shot showed gridlocked traffic on the Bay Bridge, and what appeared to be figures moving erratically between stopped vehicles. The camera zoomed in on what looked like a physical altercation, before quickly cutting away. "They're saying it might be some kind of pathogen," added Vic, our veterinary director. "Highly contagious, transmitted through bodily fluids. Causes extreme aggression, loss of cognitive function." My mind flashed to zombie movies I'd seen, but I pushed the thought away. This was real life, not some horror film. The room fell silent as Director Harlow's phone rang. Her expression darkened as she listened to the voice on the other end. "Understood," she finally said. "Keep us updated." She hung up and looked at each of us in turn. That was security. Oakland PD just issued a shelter-in-place order for the entire city. They're advising all businesses to lock down immediately. "What about visitors?" asked Mira. "The zoo opens in an hour." "We're closing for the day," Harlow decided. "No visitors, essential staff only. I want all of you to check your animals, secure any vulnerable enclosures, then prepare to potentially stay overnight." As we dispersed, my phone buzzed with a text from Kayla, my girlfriend who worked as an ER nurse at Highland Hospital. "Don't come to the city. Things going bad here, multiple violent patients. Stay at the zoo, it's safer." I texted back quickly, "Zoo on lockdown. Are you okay?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. Back outside, the April sun seemed suddenly less bright, as if a cloud had passed over it, though the sky remained clear. The distant wail of sirens floated up from the city below, a constant, distressing backdrop. I met up with my assistant keeper, Luis, at the Tiger Night House. His usual easy smile was gone, replaced by a tense, vigilant expression. "The news is saying it's some kind of infection," he said, voice low as we prepared the indoor enclosures. "My cousin works at Highland, says people are attacking each other, biting. The infected ones move strangely, like they're..." He trailed off. "Like they're what?" "Like they're not people anymore." A chill ran through me despite the warm day. "Let's just focus on the animals," I said, trying to sound confident. "They need us calm right now." We worked in silence, preparing the night houses in case we needed to bring the cats inside quickly. Raja was still pacing, and Layla, our female tiger, had started calling out with low, anxious chuffs. In the distance, I could hear the zoo's lone elephant trumpeting repeatedly, a warning call I'd only heard during severe thunderstorms. At noon, the sirens seemed to multiply and grow closer. Helicopter rotors thumped overhead, military rather than news choppers this time. The zoo's walkie-talkie system crackled with increasingly concerned updates from various departments. "Security here. We've got people gathering at the main entrance. They're trying to get in. Some of them look injured." Director Harlow's voice came through clearly. "Keep the gates locked. No exceptions." I climbed the staff platform that overlooked both the Tiger enclosure and, in the distance, the Oakland Hills. What I saw made my blood run cold. Smoke was rising from multiple locations in the city below. Several columns of dark gray billowed from downtown. Even from this distance, I could see the gridlock on Highway 580, cars seemingly abandoned in all lanes. "Elijah!" Luis's voice snapped me back. He was pointing toward the zoo's perimeter fence, barely visible through the trees. "Look." Figures were moving along the outside of the fence, stumbling, lurching, hands grasping at the metal. Even from this distance, something about their movements seemed profoundly wrong. "Get on the radio," I told Luis. "Tell security we've got people trying to breach the east perimeter." As he made the call, a loud metallic crash echoed across the zoo grounds, followed by shouting. The emergency alarm began to blare, 3 long tones repeating, the signal for immediate lockdown. "This is Director Harlow," the radio crackled urgently. "The main gate has been breached. Multiple individuals have entered the zoo grounds. Staff report aggressive behavior. All keepers secure your animals and then yourselves. This is not a drill." Luis looked at me, eyes wide with fear. "What do we do?" My mind raced through options. The administration building was closest, but if the front gates had been breached, that area might already be compromised. The Tiger Night House was solid, designed to contain 500-pound apex predators, with reinforced doors and limited access points. We secure the cats first, I decided, falling back on years of training. Then we lock ourselves in the keeper area of the night house. As we hurried to bring the big cats inside, I couldn't stop thinking about Kayla. Her last text played in my mind. "Stay at the zoo, it's safer." I was no longer convinced she was right. What I didn't realize then was how much worse things would get, how the sanctuary I dedicated my life to would transform into something unrecognizable in just a matter of hours, how the animals I'd sworn to protect would become both vulnerable prey and unexpected allies in the chaos that followed. The day had barely begun, and already the world was ending. The alarm blared across the zoo grounds as Luis and I raced to secure the big cats. Raja was reluctant to enter his night house, his instincts screaming danger more loudly than our training could overcome. "Come on, you stubborn beast," I muttered, tossing a chunk of meat through the doorway. He growled, muscles rippling beneath his striped coat, eyes fixed not on the food but on something beyond my shoulder. That's when I heard it. A chorus of inhuman moans and guttural sounds, mixed with genuine screams of terror. We managed to secure both tigers just as the hydraulic doors slammed shut with a mechanical clunk. The night house staff area was small but secure. Concrete walls, solid metal door, small windows placed high for ventilation. The radio crackled with Director Harlow's voice. Status report from all sections. Various keepers checked in from their locations. Then came a transmission that made my stomach drop. This is Rowan from Primates. They've reached the chimpanzee habitat. Multiple infected individuals. Oh God, they're trying to get into the enclosure. The chimps are going ballistic. I grabbed the radio. Rowan, it's Elijah. Where's Mira? Static. Then, she went to help visitor services evacuate. I haven't heard from her since. Another voice cut in. Vic from veterinary. I'm seeing the infected up close. Their movements aren't right. They're pale, disoriented, but incredibly aggressive. Blood around their mouths, classic signs of rabies-like symptoms, but it's spreading far too quickly. A crash from outside made us flinch. Through the small window, I could see figures stumbling past. One stopped, a man in what had once been a neat button-up shirt, with a large wound on his neck. His eyes were vacant as he pressed his face against the glass, mouth opening and closing rhythmically, leaving smears of red on the window. They're not stopping to help the injured, Luis whispered. Look at how they move. It's like they're hunting. I finished for him. My phone buzzed. Kayla, finally. Hospital overrun. Infected everywhere. Military trying to establish safe zone at Oakland Coliseum. If you can get out, go there. Don't wait for me. The radio crackled again. This is security. East Service Gate still secure. We have 4 staff vehicles ready. If anyone can make it here safely, we're planning to evacuate to the Coliseum. A wave of primate shrieks cut through the air, followed by a distinctive roar of our male lion, Nero. Not his usual territorial call, but the explosive sound he made when genuinely threatened. Lion territory has been breached, came a panicked voice over the radio. Repeat, infected individuals have entered the African Savannah exhibit. The Lion Night house connects to ours through the service corridor, I told Luis. We should check if Garrett made it there. We cautiously made our way through the secure service corridor. The heavy metal door to the Lion section was locked from the inside. I knocked our department's pattern. 2 quick taps, pause, 3 quick taps. The small viewing slot slid open, revealing Garrett's weathered face. Jesus, I was hoping you 2 had gotten out. He unbolted the door, letting us in quickly. The monitoring screens showed different angles of the habitat. At least a dozen infected people were wandering through the enclosure. Some gathered around the body of a zebra, not attacking it but seemingly confused. Others stumbled aimlessly across the savannah. The giraffes had clustered together defensively, heads swinging nervously. Where's Nero? I asked, not seeing the lion. Garrett pointed to a monitor showing the lion's cave area. Smart bastard is hiding. Zebra was already injured from panicking. Have you seen how they move? Luis asked. Garrett nodded grimly. It's like their brains are gone. Watch. On one screen, an infected woman walked straight into a rock formation, fell, then got up and repeated the exact same action. No adaptation, no learning, just mechanical, primitive movement. I've been on the phone with my daughter, Garrett said quietly. She's Army. Says this is happening all over the Bay Area. Military's calling them infected, but her unit has a different name for them. He paused. They're calling them zombies. The word hung in the air between us, watching the shambling figures on the monitors. It was difficult to find a more fitting description. They're establishing containment zones, Garrett continued. Coliseum is the nearest. She says if we can get there, they'll take us in. What about the animals? I asked. Garrett's expression darkened. They're not a priority, Elijah. People are dying by the thousands. A commotion from one of the monitors drew our attention. Nero had emerged from his cave. The lion moved with cautious precision, muscles tensed, reading the situation. One infected stumbled toward him. Nero's response was immediate. 600 pounds of predator launched at the threat, taking the infected person down with one powerful swipe. The other infected turned at the commotion, drawn to the movement and noise. My God, Luis whispered. They don't even run away. We watched as Nero retreated from his kill, visibly confused by the lack of normal response. The remaining infected showed no fear, no self-preservation. They simply redirected toward the new stimulus. The radio interrupted with Director Harlow's voice, now tight with controlled panic. "All staff, we've lost contact with the main administrative building. If you're in a secure location, maintain position. If not, the East Service Gate remains your best evacuation option." "We should go," Garrett said firmly, "while we still can." I stared at the monitors, watching Nero retreat to higher ground. What about him? What about all of them? "The predators will survive longer than the prey animals," Garrett reasoned. "And longer than us if we stay. Those fences won't hold forever, Elijah." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Kayla, running out of medical supplies. Infected showing no response to sedatives. Only head trauma stops them. Be careful, I love you. I stared at those 3 words, my chest tightening. In all our 2 years together, neither of us had said it before. "There's a service vehicle in the back maintenance lot," Garrett said, checking his own phone. "Keys are in the security office down the corridor. If we move now, we might make it." A thunderous crash made the decision for us. The emergency lights flickered, then went out. Backup generators kicked in seconds later, but the monitoring system remained dark. "That's it," Garrett said grimly. "Power infrastructure's failing. Without electricity, the hydraulic doors, water systems, everything fails eventually." "We can't just leave them trapped," I insisted, a sudden urgency gripping me. "If the power goes completely, they'll be locked in their night houses. No food, no way out." "What are you suggesting?" Luis asked. "We set the emergency release systems before we go," I said. "The big cats, at least. Give them a fighting chance if the systems fail." Garrett hesitated, then nodded. "The wolves, too. And the bears. The primates would be slaughtered, but the predators might survive." We moved quickly, inputting the emergency override codes into the control panels. These would ensure that if power failed completely, the hydraulic doors would default to open, allowing the animals access to their outdoor habitats, and eventually, freedom. "This is insane," Luis muttered as I programmed the tiger habitat controls. "We're potentially releasing dangerous predators. Better than leaving them to starve in cages," I responded. "At least they'll have a chance." As I finished the final override sequence, a bang on the outer door froze us in place. Not a knock, a body slamming against metal. Then another. The infected had found us. "Back door," Garrett hissed, leading us toward the maintenance exit. The small corridor was dark, illuminated only by emergency lights casting everything in a blood-red glow. At the end of the hall, the security office door stood partially open. Garrett slipped inside while Luis and I kept watch. The pounding on the main door grew louder, metal groaning under the pressure of multiple bodies. Garrett emerged with the keys. "Southeast maintenance gate, blue pickup, let's—" The crash of breaking glass interrupted him. Somewhere down the corridor, the infected had found a way in. "Move," he ordered, no longer bothering with whispers. We ran through the service corridors, the sounds of pursuit growing behind us. The maintenance exit was ahead, a heavy fire door that would lead to the staff parking area. Garrett reached it first, pushing the panic bar, but the door didn't budge. "Something's blocking it," he grunted, pushing harder. The door opened marginally, revealing a glimpse of a tipped-over golf cart pressing against the exterior. The moans behind us grew louder. Looking back, I could see shadows moving toward us with that distinctive shuffle-drag gait of the infected. Garrett pulled something from his waistband, a compact revolver. "3 shots," he said quietly. "If it comes to it." I glanced between the approaching infected and the blocked door, mind racing for solutions. Garrett positioned himself to defend us while Luis and I tried to push the door open wider. "It's moving," Luis grunted as we threw our weight against it. Inch by inch, the golf cart outside scraped across the pavement. The infected were visible now, emerging from the dimness of the corridor. Former visitors, zoo staff, their features distorted, eyes vacant yet somehow filled with primal hunger. Garrett fired his first shot, dropping the closest one. "Hurry!" With a final desperate push, we created just enough space for a person to squeeze through. "Go!" Garrett ordered, firing again. "Now!" Luis went first, his slender frame slipping through the gap. I followed, the rough edge of the door tearing my sleeve. "Garrett!" I called back, reaching through the gap. "Come on!" His weathered face appeared at the opening, calm despite everything. "Get to the truck, I'll be right." His words cut off as pale hands grabbed him from behind, yanking him backward. A spray of blood hit the door as teeth sank into his shoulder. He didn't scream, just locked eyes with me one last time. "Go," he mouthed, before disappearing into the mass of infected. Luis pulled me away from the door as the infected began pushing against it, hands reaching through the gap. The reality of Garrett's sacrifice hit me like a physical blow. "The truck," Luis reminded me, his voice breaking. "We have to go." The blue pickup sat 30 yards away, partially hidden behind a maintenance shed. Between us and it lay open ground, and more infected roaming between buildings. My last text from Kayla flashed in my mind. Only head trauma stops them. We had no weapons, no protection. Just the keys in my hand and the desperate knowledge that our only hope lay in reaching that truck. As the infected broke through the door behind us, we made our move, running toward an uncertain escape while the sounds of the animals we had just liberated echoed across the zoo. Calls of distress and fury from creatures who understood, perhaps better than we had, that the world had fundamentally changed. We sprinted across the open ground toward the blue pickup, each footfall echoing in my ears. 30 yards had never seemed so far. Luis was slightly ahead of me, keys clutched in my hand, the moans of the infected rising behind us like a gathering storm. 20 yards, 15. We were going to make it. Then I heard Luis curse as his foot caught on something. A garden hose someone had left uncoiled. He went down hard, sprawling across the pavement with a sickening crack as his head hit the ground. "Luis!" I skidded to a stop, turning back. He was already trying to get up, but blood streamed from a gash on his forehead. The infected that had broken through the door spotted him and changed direction, their shuffling gait accelerating into something more purposeful. I hauled him to his feet, throwing his arm over my shoulder. "Come on!" We stumbled forward together, his steps faltering. The truck was just ahead, but the infected were closing fast. Luis's weight grew heavier against me. "Leave me," he gasped. "You can make it." "Not happening," I grunted, dragging him the final yards to the vehicle. I yanked open the passenger door, practically throwing Luis inside before circling to the driver's side. The nearest infected was barely 5 feet away, arms outstretched, jaw working mechanically. I slammed the door shut just as bloody fingers scraped against the window. The engine roared to life. I threw the truck in reverse, tires squealing as we backed away from the grasping hands. The side mirror caught one of the infected, spinning the figure to the ground, but I felt no remorse. These weren't people anymore. "We made it," Luis muttered, pressing a hand to his bleeding head. I spun the wheel, aiming for the service road that would lead to the east gate. Just as I shifted into drive, a thunderous crash reverberated across the zoo grounds. Metal tearing, concrete crumbling. The ground beneath us seemed to tremble. The fallen power line became visible an instant too late. A thick cable stretched across the service road, still sparking with live electricity. I slammed on the brakes, the truck sliding on loose gravel. We stopped mere feet from the deadly wire. "No way through," I muttered, scanning for alternatives. Luis pointed weakly to the right. "Delivery entrance, by the commissary." I threw the truck into reverse again, backing up to find another route, but we'd attracted too much attention. Infected were converging from all directions, drawn by the engine noise and movement. Within seconds, they surrounded the vehicle, pounding on the doors and windows. "We're trapped," Luis said, his voice faint. He was losing too much blood, his normally tan complexion growing ashen. I was about to respond when a deafening roar cut through the air, not the kind made by any human, infected or otherwise. The sound reverberated through the zoo, primal and powerful. The infected nearest the vehicle paused, heads turning toward the sound. Another roar followed, then another, different pitch, different species, but equally powerful. The predators were making themselves known. Through the windshield, I saw a blur of orange and black streak across the path ahead. Raja, our male tiger, moving with lethal purpose. He took down the nearest infected with terrifying efficiency, massive paws crushing the skull before moving to the next target. The override systems, I breathed. They worked. The emergency power failure had triggered the release mechanisms we'd set. The predators were free. The infected surrounding our truck began to disperse, drawn to the new movements, the new sounds. They wandered away in that mindless fashion that seemed to be their only consistent trait, following stimuli without thought or strategy. We need to get back inside, I decided, watching as more infected streamed toward the sounds of the escaped animals. The night houses are still secure. We can treat your wound there. Luis nodded weakly. I waited until the path was relatively clear, then eased the truck forward, driving slowly to minimize noise. We made it back to the keeper entrance we'd fled from just minutes earlier, the door still partially open where the infected had broken through. I helped Luis inside, barricading the door behind us with a supply shelf. The service corridors were eerily quiet now, the infected having moved toward the commotion outside. We made our way back to the Night House Medical Station, where we kept first aid supplies for treating minor animal injuries. "Sit," I ordered, helping Luis onto a stool. I cleaned and bandaged his head wound, relieved to find it wasn't as deep as the bleeding had suggested. Head wounds always bled dramatically. "What the hell is going on out there?" he asked, wincing as I applied antiseptic. I moved to the small window, peering out at what had once been the carefully managed zoo grounds. What I saw was like something from a nature documentary set in some primeval wilderness. Except this wilderness was filled with the walking dead. Nero, our male lion, had claimed territory on the elevated viewing platform of his habitat. 3 infected lay motionless at the bottom of the stairs, their heads crushed by powerful jaws. The lion paced regally, watching for more intruders with imperial disdain. In the distance, I could see the wolves working as a pack, circling infected that had wandered into their territory. Unlike the big cats who killed and then retreated, the wolves were methodical, strategic, separating individuals from groups, bringing them down with coordinated attacks. "The animals," I said softly. "They're hunting the infected." "But why?" Luis asked. "They're not eating them." "Territory," I replied, understanding dawning. "The zoo is their home, they're defending it." A crash from somewhere in the building startled us both. We froze, listening intently. The sound came again. Not the mindless pounding of infected, but deliberate, rhythmic. I grabbed a tranquilizer dart as a makeshift weapon and moved cautiously toward the noise. It was coming from the keeper lounge area. I pushed the door open slowly, ready to strike. "Elijah!" A familiar voice made me lower the dart. "Mira?" I couldn't believe it. The primate keeper stood in the middle of the room, clutching a fire axe, her uniform torn and splattered with blood. "Thank God," she breathed, setting down the axe. I thought everyone was gone. We embraced briefly, the relief of finding another survivor overwhelming. "How did you get here?" I asked. "Underground service tunnels," she explained. "I was helping evacuate visitor services when everything went to hell. Made it to the maintenance tunnels with a few others. We've been moving between buildings, trying to find a way out." "We?" She gestured behind her. 3 more figures emerged from the shadows. Vic from veterinary, an older woman I recognized as Josephine from the aviary, and a security guard named Davis. "The east gate's blocked," I informed them. "We tried to get out that way. Power line down across the road." "Main gate's worse," Vic said grimly. "Complete chaos. Military tried to set up a perimeter but got overrun. We watched from the administration building before it was breached." "So we're trapped?" Luis asked from his stool. "Not exactly trapped," Mira replied, a strange light in her eyes. "Have you seen what's happening outside? The animals? They're fighting back." I nodded. "The predators are killing the infected." "Not just killing them," Vic added. "Establishing territories. The wolves have secured the entire northwest section. The big cats are controlling the central pathways. Even the chimps have formed a defensive perimeter around the primate house. It's not just predators either. Josephine spoke up, her British accent still prim despite everything. My secretary birds are using their snake-killing tactics on the infected, striking at their heads with incredible precision. And the cassowaries, she shuddered. Those prehistoric monsters are absolutely devastating the infected that wander into their territory. Davis pulled out a zoo map. We've been marking which areas are secure. He spread it on the table, revealing a patchwork of zones marked in different colors. Green means animal-controlled, relatively safe for keepers they recognize. Red means heavy infected presence. Yellow is contested territory. I studied the map with growing amazement. Nearly 40% of the zoo was marked green, centered around the predator habitats. The infected still dominated the entrance areas and administrative buildings, but they were being pushed back by the animals. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Luis asked, joining us at the table. Mira nodded, determination hardening her features. The zoo could be defensible. These animals know us. They're already doing half the work clearing out the infected. If we can secure the perimeter, seal the breaches, we could turn this place into a sanctuary. I finished, the idea taking root. It wasn't as crazy as it sounded. The zoo had its own water supply, solar backup power, food stores for the animals, and even a staff greenhouse where we grew some of the browse for herbivores. It won't be easy, Davis cautioned. The main gate is completely overrun. We'd need to clear it and construct new barriers. And not all the animals are faring well, Josephine added soberly. The zebras were slaughtered. Most of the antelopes too. Prey species don't stand a chance against the infected. Her words reminded me of something terrible. The petting zoo, I said quietly. The children's area, the goats, the sheep. Vic's expression confirmed my fears. Gone. All of them. The infected broke through there first. The loss hit harder than I expected. Those gentle animals, hand-raised from birth, trusting humans completely. They would have approached the infected without fear, expecting treats instead of teeth. I'd bottle-fed many of them as kids. Now they were gone. We should check on the elephants, I suggested, pushing down my grief. They're intelligent enough to defend themselves, and their enclosure has the most robust barriers. Already confirmed safe, Mira said. Matilda went on a rampage when the infected entered their habitat, crushed at least a dozen before pushing the rest out. They've created a fortress around the younger elephants. I felt a surprising surge of pride at that. Matilda had always been protective. Now her maternal instincts were helping her survive. Over the next several days, we transformed the zoo into something completely new. A fortress against the chaos that had consumed the outside world. We used maintenance equipment to seal the breaches, constructed barriers from exhibit materials, and established safe corridors between secured areas. The animals continued their territorial defense, somehow understanding that the infected were enemies to be eliminated. Not all our animals survived. We lost Pascal, our elderly jaguar, when a group of infected broke into his night house. The flamingo flock was decimated when panic drove them into infected territory. Each loss felt personal, a failure of our duty to protect. But with each passing day, our sanctuary grew stronger. We established a signal system using the emergency lights, visible for miles across the darkened city. We broadcast messages over the PA system during daylight hours, guiding survivors to our secure entry points. They came in small groups at first. Families, lone survivors, people who had somehow escaped the city's collapse. Among them were medical personnel, engineers, people with skills that strengthened our community. Each new arrival brought news of the outside world. None of it was good. 7 days after the outbreak began, I was helping reinforce the east perimeter fence when Davis called over the radio. "Main gate, you're needed." I found him at our carefully constructed entry checkpoint, a series of barriers and gates designed to screen newcomers for infection. Through the outer gate stood a small group of survivors, dirty, exhausted, clearly at the end of their strength. And at the front, her medical scrubs stained with blood and her face gaunt with exhaustion, stood Kayla. For a moment, I couldn't move. After everything that had happened, After the world had fallen apart around us, seeing her standing there seemed impossible, like a dream I'd wake from at any moment. "Elijah," Davis prompted, breaking my trance. I stepped forward, opening the first gate. Kayla's eyes met mine, and a smile broke through her exhaustion. "You made it," she said simply. "We both did," I replied. As we brought her group inside, I realized something profound had shifted in my understanding of our situation. The zoo, this place I'd spent 12 years caring for, had evolved into something its founders could never have imagined. It wasn't just a sanctuary for animals anymore, or even just for humans. It had become a place where both species formed an alliance against extinction. That night, as Kayla slept in the keeper's quarters we'd converted to living spaces, I stood on the observation platform overlooking the central grounds. Raja patrolled below, his massive form moving silently through moonlight. In the distance, the wolf pack howled, not in alarm, but in the age-old signal that their territory was secure. The world beyond our fences remained in chaos. The infected still pressed against our barriers, driven by their mindless hunger. But within, we had created something remarkable. A community where the natural order we had once artificially maintained had transformed into a genuine symbiosis. The predators protected us as much as we protected them. I don't know what the future holds for us. This first chapter of the new world has been written in blood and loss. But standing here, watching our unlikely kingdom thrive in the midst of apocalypse, I feel something I thought had been lost forever: hope. And in this primal sanctuary, among the creatures I've dedicated my life to protecting, I found a truth I never expected. Sometimes the most human thing we can do is embrace our animal nature, to protect our territory, to fight for our family, to rebuild what was lost. The infected may have taken the world, but they won't take this place. Not while we stand with our most unexpected allies, the hunters. The survivors, the ones who sensed what was coming before we ever did. This is our kingdom now, and together we will defend it.